Well, I've just spent the last week in Afghanistan, and I've been pretty struck by the fact that everybody's talking about transition. Everybody has accepted there's going to be a very significant reduction in US forces next year in 2012, but also that reduction will continue, and there's really nobody questioning the fact that by the end of 2014 there won't be NATO forces involved in combat, and that's provided an important forcing function, making people concentrate. People knew that there was going to be a transition, a transfer to Afghan control, but I don't think until the last couple of weeks actually the point has come home that this is going to start now. So this is a very important turning point for Afghanistan. It's also an important turning point for NATO. You know, it's a long time since people thought that the purpose of the mission in Afghanistan was to create a European-style country in the middle of Central Asia. This is a very difficult region. Afghanistan has had a very troubled history. What the objective is to create an Afghanistan which has enough stability that over time the country can develop and its people can become more secure and more prosperous. So that doesn't mean that all the security problems will be over by 2014. It does mean giving the Afghans the capability to handle those in large measure by themselves. And I think sometimes there's a confusion that thinks that by 2015 NATO or the United States, UK will wash their hands of Afghanistan, and that's not the policy. The policy is to transfer the primary security responsibility to Afghanistan, to Afghan army and police and so on. But in many other respects there will continue to have to be international assistance. Well, President Obama decided that the surge forces, the 33,000 extra forces he announced in 2009, will all be withdrawn by September 2012. And General Petraeus, the American military commander in Afghanistan, made it clear that he would prefer if those forces could have spent another 4 or 5 months there. So one shouldn't exaggerate the difference between the military advice and the political decision. And indeed we met with Petraeus, and he was clear, he's been clear in his congressional testimony that the people on the ground are always going to ask for more, but the people further up the chain of command also have to look at the general strain on US military forces, and indeed the political leaders have to look at the balance of spending between defence and other things, given the budgetary problems the United States, like all of us, has. So I don't think there's a fundamental disagreement about the pace of the drawdown next year. I think the 10,000 troops which the United States has said it's going to be withdrawing in 2011 are in large measure troops that would have a big impact on combat capability, because one of the things that the surge involved was a lot of spending on new facilities, new infrastructure, which needs extra people for a short period of time but can then be withdrawn. So I think they'll manage this year without too much problem. The real issue will be withdrawing an additional 23,000 in the first 9 months of 2012, and that will have to eat into combat capability. There's no question about that. They will partly compensate for that, I suspect, by building up even further special force capability, which is relatively small numbers of people, even in the United States case, but have proven themselves very capable in terms of night raids on mid-level Taliban commanders. That's going to continue. But there is, I think, some degree of concern, trepidation, if you like, about where these 23,000 are going to come from. I don't think there's any substantive difference between the UK and the US on this. I think both the UK and US are at the moment talking about having a significant but much smaller force after 2014 and letting the Afghans do most of the fighting. But that's a long way away. Things will undoubtedly change between now and then. There's no question at all, I think, about the UK staying behind when the Americans have left. I think the UK and US are in lockstep on this. What neither has decided is exactly what things will look like 4 years from now.